the modern Hare Krishna movement to America and various places all over the world is the reason we're here. And he's initiated, disciple, a formal student of Prabhupada. He studied at the University of New York, and in '69 he is when he formally was initiated, and then in the year of '71 he officially took what's called sannyas. It's a very exalted, ordained monkhood, and he's also served within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's a worldwide movement, and there he served as a temple president, public affairs director, as well as a governing body commission. It's mostly a checks and balances type of thing that we have in our movement. And for over 5 decades, he's been traveling in various parts of the world, exclusively in USA and Asia, just to help everyone. So please join me in welcoming warmly Romapad Swami.
I want to compliment you. Haridas? Adinath? Adinath. You don't need an amplification system. Your vocal system is very powerful. I've never heard anything quite like it. Powerful young man. May you live a long life. You know, that was a benediction given by Lord Nrsingadev to Lord Nrsingadev to Prahlad Maharaj. May you live a long life. He lived a long life. Along with your singing. There's a nice topic for this evening. It's one of my favorite topics. Who am I? The painting on the right is a gentleman from the period of Greek philosophy that was very outstanding and upstanding and influenced the world, although Greece is not a big country. His name is Plutarch, and we're going to hear a little bit of what Plutarch had to say about the who am I topic. I'll share a little something. I'm going to show a little video. That's it says it's a TED talk, but it's like a cartoonish narration of what Plutarch had to say, and it's called The Ship of Theseus. He tells an allegory of a Greek king of Athens who got in a ship at the request of his citizens because it was in Crete, which is an island, the southern part off Greece, and he slayed a minotaur and came back, and so the story is the ship of Theseus. So I forget, a number of years ago now, maybe 4 years ago, I was in Beijing. It's a nice place. And the venue was a yoga studio. So in the yoga studio, something like this, at the end of a talk on Bhagavad Gita, first girl immediately, as soon as there was questions, she raised her hand, and she said it in English too. She didn't even need a translator. She said, "What's your take on the ship of Theseus?" And I said, "What do you know about the ship of Theseus?" She said, "We studied it in our philosophy class." And I was like double taken back because I certainly didn't expect in Beijing they're going to ask about a Greek philosopher. And that they studied, because in China there's lots and lots and lots and lots of ancient philosophy also. But so in their philosophy class they're studying Ship of Theseus. The ship of Theseus is asking the question. It's an allegory to ask the reader, or from the philosopher Plutarch, who am I? So now you're in suspense, right? What's this ship of Theseus? What's the story? Embarking on a journey of self-discovery. It's drawn from a message that Prabhupada used, and it's all of us. We're on the same journey together. Different experience of that journey, but the same journey together. Now here's the little TED Talk, or the topic. And you'll see the subtitle, Persistence of Identity. Hint, that's the soul. Okay, so here's the little presentation. I hope the sound system works. Pretty good, huh?
Throughout the history of mankind, three little words have sent poets to the blank page, philosophers to the agora, and seekers to the oracles. Who am I? From the ancient Greek aphorism inscribed on the Temple of Apollo, Know thyself, to the Who's Rock anthem, Who Are You? Philosophers, psychologists, academics, scientists, artists, theologians, and politicians have all tackled the subject of identity. Their hypotheses are widely varied and lack significant consensus. These are smart, creative people. So what's so hard about coming up with the right answer? One challenge certainly lies with the complex concept of the persistence of identity. Which you is who? The person you are today, 5 years ago, who you'll be in 50 years? And when is am? This week? Today? This hour? This second? And which aspect of you is I? Are you your physical body, your thoughts and feelings, your actions? These murky waters of abstract logic are tricky to navigate, and so it's probably fitting that to demonstrate the complexity, the Greek historian Plutarch used the story of a ship. How are you I? As the tale goes, Theseus, the mythical founder king of Athens, single-handedly slayed the evil Minotaur at Crete, then returned home on a ship. To honor this heroic feat, for 1,000 years Athenians painstakingly maintained his ship in the harbor, and annually reenacted his voyage. Whenever a part of the ship was worn or damaged, it was replaced with an identical piece of the same material, until at some point, no original parts remained. Plutarch noted the ship of Theseus was an example of the philosophical paradox revolving around the persistence of identity. How can every single part of something be replaced, yet it still remains the same thing? Let's imagine there are two ships. The ship that Theseus docked in Athens, Ship A, and the ship sailed by the Athenians 1,000 years later, Ship B. Very simply, our question is this: does A equal B? Some would say that for 1,000 years there has been only one ship of Theseus, and because the changes made to it happened gradually, it never at any point in time stopped being the legendary ship. Though they have absolutely no parts in common, the two ships are numerically identical, meaning one and the same, so A equals B. However, others could argue that Theseus never set foot on Ship B, and his presence on the ship is an essential qualitative property of the ship of Theseus. It cannot survive without him. So, though the two ships are numerically identical, they are not qualitatively identical. Thus, A does not equal B. But what happens when we consider this twist? What if, as each piece of the original ship was cast off, somebody collected them all and rebuilt the entire original ship? When it was finished, undeniably, two physical ships would exist, the one that's docked in Athens and the one in some guy's backyard. Each could lay claim to the title, the Ship of Theseus, but only one could actually be the real thing. So which one is it? And more importantly, What does this have to do with you? Like the ship of Theseus, you are a collection of constantly changing parts. Your physical body, mind, emotions, circumstances, and even your quirks, always changing, but still, in an amazing and sometimes illogical way, you stay the same too. This is one of the reasons that the question, who am I, is so complex. And in order to answer it, like so many great minds before you, you must be willing to dive into the bottomless ocean of philosophical paradox. Or maybe you could just answer, I am a legendary hero sailing a powerful ship on an epic journey. That could work too.
It's a good way to start, isn't it? Well done, little persistence of identity message. So it's Plutarch was saying something that Bhagavad Gita is saying, that transcendentalists are also saying, that the fact that we're not the body. Here's another Greek philosopher. You recognize this fellow? Socrates. Some several hundred years, about 500 years before Plutarch, Socrates was considered a heretic. They put him on trial. He was found guilty of heresy. And his heresy was he believed in the immortality of the soul. That was a heresy at the time. And so he was condemned to death. And you know, the celebrated painting with one arm in the air, he's handed a bowl of hemlock. I don't know too much about hemlock, but it's a kind of poison. And you drink it and you're finished. So his penalty, death penalty, was to drink hemlock. And before he drank the hemlock, they asked him a question. You have the privilege to decide how your funeral will be held. And he gave the celebrated answer. Whoops. Uh-oh. However you please, if you can catch me, and I do not get away from you. And then he drank the hemlock. And then, I don't know what they did with his body, because that's not part of the story. But he had such conviction, as do some other elevated souls. We hear primarily about yogis or devotees or transcendentalists that have this. So he was a transcendentalist. He had that same profound conviction. And he had other writings and other writings. The writings of Socrates were a guidance for the Western world for a long, long time. And, here's a little image of the spiritual conception. Spiritual, of course, is at the center. And then there's three other triangles: body, mind, and intellect. That's at least how this depiction is made. And there's one thing at the center, and that animates the other parts. And that one thing that's at the center, that's the persistence of identity, because when the other things disintegrate, the spiritual conception continues. So there's that little spark, that little skinny guy there in the middle. That's the soul. That's the identity of who we really are. Different traditions have different approaches to come in touch with the self, but introspection, or the mode of goodness, to look within, because that's the position of the self. Here's a nice verse from Bhagavad Gita. If you know the verse, you can say it with me. And if you don't know the verse, you can read it on the screen. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya paramana manasastu parabudhir yo buddhi paratastusa. So it goes, the senses, the indriyas, are para, or supreme, or above the gross matter. The working senses are superior to dull matter. And then above the indriyas is the mana, the mind. And above the mana, or mind, is intelligence. And above the intelligence is the soul. Sabuddhi parastu saha. And that's us. That little skinny guy again. So here's a nice lady. Maybe you've met her before. She's the bird in the cage lady. She's very concerned about she's polishing the cage, and she's so immersed in the cage that she neglects the purpose of the cage. That's the bird inside. And because the bird inside isn't getting fed, the bird croaks. That's good, not good for the bird, but it's a nice looking cage.
But she's happy.
Yeah, she's happy. That's what's important, right? The bird dies, but she's happy. So the message is the cage is different from the bird. The purpose of the cage is for the bird. So Prabhupada would sometimes call this the cage polishing civilization. Now, in the course of becoming interested in this topic and different ways of presenting the topic, somebody recommended that I read this book by Dr. Michael Sabam from Emory University. Perhaps you've seen this illustration before. It's taken from the book. And in the book, it describes Dr. Sabam as a cardiologist. And one of the things that cardiologists sometimes have to do is they have to perform open heart surgery. And when they perform open heart surgery, they hook the body up to a couple machines. One is a machine that tells what's going on with the brain. Because when the EKG system goes flat, means they're brain dead, means they're dead. Then something else tells them when the heartbeat, and the heartbeat is irregular, or what to speak of when it stops, that's danger. So while they're doing the open heart surgery, the fellow's under anesthesia. It's a nice thing to know. What is anesthesia? Anesthesia is where there's stages of consciousness. Awake, sleep, and deep sleep. Anyone here that's been anesthetized know what that is. So consciousness is still there because the soul is still there, but consciousness is so dull they can cut you with a knife and you don't feel it. And then when the anesthesia wears off, then you feel it, where the incision was or whatever it was that they did. So they were performing open heart surgery, and the assistant told the doctor, the main surgeon, all the meters have gone flat. That means the person's dead. The heart stopped, and then so there's a procedure, and if that happens, they put these electrodes on the person's chest, and it sends a very strong signal by electrical signal into the body. It's like jump-starting a car. It gives a signal as if the heart is still beating, although the heart stopped beating. And sometimes the heart continues to beat or resumes beating when it stopped. And during that period of time, when the heart stops, technically the body is dead, which means the blood is not going to the brain, and the brain is not registering any neurological activities. And so it's brain dead, but body dead. So while this procedure was going on, the painting shows the person was observing everything from above the operating table. And then when he survived, the next day, Dr. Sabam next few days, he went to see the patient bedside manner of the doctor, and how's it going, sir? And he narrated, the patient narrated everything that happened during cardiac arrest. They detected this, they did that, so the doctor asked, how do you know all this? And he said, I was watching from above the operating table. That's the painting. Now, points. He had visual acuity, he had auditory acuity, and he had memory. Those indriyas, the senses, the sight and ear, at least those two were functioning, although the body wasn't functioning. And then memory, that's the mind. And he was able to remember what happened after it happened. And so what it means is the seat of consciousness is not the body. The seat of consciousness is not the electrochemical activities that take place in the brain, as some science, medical science would have us believe. It disproves it. So he was in disbelief. How did this happen? So he went through the book describes, Dr. Sabam went through the exercise of asking any of the other cardiologists, have you ever had anything like this happen? And they had similar reports. And after going through the whole thing, he wrote a book about it. And in the book, his conclusion in the book, keeping it really simple, he said, as a medical practitioner, I'm very reluctant to say, but it appears from the evidence that what I experienced and what these other doctors experienced is there is such a thing as a soul. And the soul is the seat of consciousness, not the body. And when the soul leaves the body, the soul may, in certain circumstances, perceive the body. But the consciousness and the body are different. That's like good medical evidence to indicate what Plutarch had to say or what Socrates had to say. So I got interested, so I read a couple more books. I didn't get into it. Some people really get into it. I just read one, The Other Side of the Country, Kimberly Clark, Sharp, from the University of Washington, School of Medicine, and I don't recall if she was a cardiologist, but she had some similar report, because out-of-body experience doesn't have to be heart surgery. It can just be some trauma or something where somebody has some out-of-body experience, and they reported the same thing to her, and she did essentially the same thing as Dr. Sabam did. She went around and asked others, and they had similar reports. Out-of-body experience is not unknown to the medical profession. And then she reached the same conclusion in her book. There is such a thing as a soul. Medically, there may be some other explanation, because they have to be fair. There may be some other explanation, but it points to there's a soul or a seat of consciousness that's other than the body. Now, here's a fellow is being, he's I don't know the person, he's Rainn Wilson. He doesn't look like a Hare Krishna guy. But he says the same thing a Hare Krishna guy will say. Hopefully this is going to play.
The reason why spirituality is important is because it is reality. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Who I am and what I am is not my body. It's not even my personality. It's not the trauma I suffered. It's not what I've been through. That there is a little spark of the divine inside of me. There's hard data that shows around mental health and well-being that having serenity, meaning, purpose, a losing of oneself for transcendent self of the divine increases greatly the quality of our lives. We're a part of something much greater and much more beautiful than ourselves. And in living in that state can greatly enrich your life.
Bhagavad Gita class. Now, you don't have to look like this or look like that to have wisdom and, fundamental wisdom. And he's pointing to other medical and statistical information that shows the quality of life and serenity and all those nice things. They're more accessible for those that live that lifestyle. And it's not new. There's just a few more of these examples. This fellow, Schrodinger, some of you are college graduates, so you certainly know who Schrodinger is, the father of quantum mechanics. Here's something he wrote, a nice picture of him as well. Consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It's just another way of saying the same thing. He says it in fancy language, but it all points to the conscious self that's within, according to the message of Bhagavad Gita. The soul is situated in the heart, in the region of, not like in the physical limitation in this chamber over there. That's the heart is, the soul is there. But the image is meant to show that the soul is radiating consciousness.
Does the heart see?
Can we do the questions at the end? Is that okay? Hold off? You won't forget. So, something I like to do, I've been doing for umpteen years, for at least an hour to 2 hours daily, I listen to recorded lectures of my spiritual master. And I started a couple of times, heard him saying this phrase, the jiva is both conscious and consciousness. And I thought, that's really cool. What does it mean? The jiva, the living entity, is both conscious and consciousness. So I puzzled and puzzled and puzzled, and finally I came across this Upanishadic verse that says, just as a lamp is luminous and it spreads light throughout a room, illuminating pots and plates. That was the verse. I mean, essentially the verse. Then I could understand what Prabhupada was saying. So that's why the image is there. It's a little lamp, clay pot, and there's some ghee wick laying on the lamp, and the flame from the lamp is luminous, and that light spreads throughout the room. It lights up pots and plates, or lights up things. So similarly, we're conscious, and we're consciousness. Consciousness expands, goes here and goes there. So I'm sitting here in the room, and I can hear the sound of whatever that air conditioner is that's up there, and I can see the light from the street coming through the windows and the door. So consciousness is here, but it's also spreading throughout the room. Here's another way. I like visuals, so here's another way of showing the same thing. There's an eggshell, and there's some light that's emanating from the eggshell, because there's light in the jiva, or luminosity, or consciousness, and that consciousness spreads. And as it opens, consciousness is expanding, and eventually the goal of the systems of yoga, according to Bhagavad Gita, is to come to the stage of nirvana. And nirvana is where that jewel-like thing on the right side, that's the soul, is completely separate from the body. So it's not just like having an out-of-body experience, but that's what out-of-body experiences are like. It's the consciousness is distinct and separate from the body. Here's another way of illustrating the same thing. Here's a nice fellow. He's a Chinese fellow. Looks like a Chinese fellow. And there's certain characteristics, that the configuration of his eyes, he's got a little beard, he's smoking something, who knows what that something is that he's smoking. And he has a friend, and the friend is also Chinese, and he has a little bit bigger beard, and they both have some characteristics in common. But it's a physical to physical relationship, unless, so this is what Prabhupada explains, or the Bhagavatam explains. There's a way to have a soul-to-soul relationship, although we're not the body, we're spirit soul. Not so often do people think of themselves as spirit soul, and the other as spirit soul, and have a soul-to-soul relationship. So this fellow here, he has a spirit soul, and that fellow over there, he has another one. It's just a different color. But something they share in common besides they're Chinese and they have a beard, they have a soul. There's super soul that's situated within the heart, side by side with the individual soul. And what Scripture tells us to have a soul-to-soul relationship is with the via medium of the super soul. Now, this is another teaching that's, an essential teaching in the yoga system. But besides the individual soul, that's who we really are, there's the supreme soul or super soul that's situated also within the heart. And it's the same super soul that's within the heart of everyone in this room. Not a different super soul. It's not multiple super souls. There's one super soul. And it's not just in human bodies, but in every form, like these plants that are hanging from the ceiling, and whatever are little microbes and bugs and who knows whatever other living entities are floating around. It's the same super soul within. And in a practical way, to demonstrate the same thing, there's something that differentiates us from a machine, like, something that I've noticed, you probably have it here. Something I've noticed on college campuses is they have these robots that deliver pizzas. You've seen? Yeah, they have them here too. No, yes, you haven't seen. It's a little. It looks, it doesn't look like a robot. It's just a little box on wheels, but they put hot pizza in the box, close the box, and then remotely send the pizza to the person that purchased the pizza. I don't know what the payment arrangement is, but see, as many some campuses, as many students are walking up and down the sidewalk, there are these little robots delivering pizzas and whatever else is inside that little box. So that's a machine that's doing the same thing that a pizza deliverer might do. So what's the difference is consciousness. My interest in this goes back a long time. And I like a lot visiting universities. In some period of time, I was visiting public high schools. So I built a little plexiglass box and put it inside, like a carrying box. It was show and tell kind of a thing. So took this plexiglass thing outside of a box, and people are wondering, what's that? What's he doing? So it's set up in such a way, you press a little button on the top, and you could see when you press the button, a red light shines, and it would shine on a light-sensitive wafer chip on top of a machine, and then the machine would either print out a little message that says, I see a red light, or you can make it say, I see a red light. And so you demonstrate that to the classroom and say, where's consciousness? You can get a machine to say or to print out. I had one that printed out. And I see a red light, I see a red light, every time you press the button. But where's the experience of seeing the red light? Although a mechanical response is red, where's the experience, the conscious experience of seeing a red light? It's not there. These are all different ways of expressing the same thing. Here's another one. This is just common sense. Some time ago, scientists, they were analyzing what's the constituent parts of human body. And this is what they found. There's enough iron in a human body, generally speaking, to make 6 small nails. Carbon to make 900 pencils. That's a lot of pencils. Sugar to sweeten 10 cups of coffee. Potassium to fire a toy cannon. And 7 bars of soap. Not fat and lime. Phosphorus to make 20 matchboxes. Water to fill a 10-gallon tank. And a little of this and that, the other trace elements. You put them all together, and you can go to a place that sells these ingredients, and it's worth $20. So we just a bag of chemicals that's worth $20. If we're just his body, or which is more valuable, the human life that's lost in a car accident, or the BMW. So I did a little checking. BMWs these days are around $50,000, or the $20,000. This could be the $20 friend. All of these are hovering around the same topic. I like graphics, so here's a nice graphic. That fellow with his back to us, that's us. On one side, there's birth, and the other side, there's death. And in between is life, what you do with your human form of life. And the whole purpose of this little presentation is to raise the question, who am I? If you're going to decide what to do with this life, you better know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you can do anything with your life, and it doesn't make so much sense. Am I truly happy? What's my goal of life? What's human form of life meant for? Where do I go after this life? Some of us in this room are getting a little older. We're all getting a little older. But I have a sister that lives in Southern California, and she's now 83 years old. And I had a conversation with her the other day, and many things came up in the discussion. She was sharing with me the stage of life she's in. She feels the light's going to go out. This and that. The body is breaking down. The mind is fine, and she's happy. She's a talented, gifted, person, brilliant person. Without all the glorification, she's accomplished a lot in her life, but things are falling apart. So she wanted to know from me, what do your teachings say about where does the soul go after this life? And then we had a discussion about that, and she said, from the time I was little, this is my sister, one of my sisters, I had this understanding, this intuitive understanding that we're just passing through this lifetime, and after this life we're going to go somewhere. So she wanted to know, what do your scriptures say? What determines where the soul goes after this life? And we had a lively discussion. Most of you know the answer from Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is our primary text for understanding things like this. Whoops. No. Not going. There we go. There's Bhagavad Gita cover. According to Bhagavad Gita, very simple, the mind determines where the soul will go. So during our lifetime, we have thoughts. Most of us have thoughts. And thoughts are driven by desire. Most of us have desire. And where the accumulation of thoughts and desires throughout the course of life brings a culmination at the moment of death, at that exact moment of death, whatever the mind is fixed upon, the mind, the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and false ego carry the soul from the gross body to the next gross body. So the subtle body accompanies us, and the subtle body determines where the soul's going. So we had a nice discussion. And you know, we're going to have some further nice discussions because she had to deal with some family emergency. So there we are. Much of what we've shared, of course, there's details and details and different ways of looking at the same topic, but the same topic is the Bhagavad Gita topic, chapter 2. When the painting is Arjuna, great warrior, great hero, great personality. There's going to be a battle, and he is one of the principal persons in the battle, and he makes a request of his dear friend Krishna to draw his chariot between the two armies, pretty vast armies lined up. And he, with the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he looks at who's out there and says, I can't do this. I quit. Because, and he gives all virtuous reasons why to not engage in battle, and take the lives of others. And then it gets to the point where he's perplexed, sufficiently perplexed, that he turns to Krishna and asks him what he should do. And the rest of Bhagavad Gita is the answer of what he should do, what we should do when you have perplexing situations in life. And one of the first messages, not one of, the first message is to understand who you are. And the first message is you're not the body. We're not the body. And if we're not the body, then who we are. Maybe we're the mind, back to the same, the Plutarch story. Or maybe we're our emotions. Maybe we're the impressions that within the mind. Maybe that's who I am. And so forth and so on. We're almost done. This is a painting of one very elevated personality. His name was Sanatana Goswami. And he was from a highly educated family, aristocratic, very bright family, etc., etc., etc. And he, in the course of his life, he met Lord Chaitanya, who's pictured on the right as a sannyasi. So here he is, Sanatana Goswami, literally falling at his feet and asking these two questions, the who am I question, Kayami. And then the second question is, why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? Now we have things that we don't want in life, and when those things that we don't want in life, when they're forced upon us, we can't say no. So why? Why is a good question. If you have the answer to the why question, then you'll know what to do. And if you have good teachers and good teachings, you'll know what to do with the perplexities of life. But if you don't know, you'll remain perplexed. So here's a nice painting of our founder Acharya, my spiritual master, and the author of many wonderful literatures, translator, and also author of many wonderful literatures, directly coming from the Vedas. Nice, huh? And he consistently said it all over the world and it's a powerful message. And one of the answers and how to get to that understanding, of course, scriptures have, but to understand scriptures and to directly realize or experience what the scriptures say is this chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. The painting on the left, that's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's holding beads or with musical performance. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is the most effective means of clearing consciousness to come to the stage of realizing. Now, that fellow that we heard the interview of, the American actor, I don't know if he chants japa or chants Hare Krishna mantra. It's possible to get that realization or that understanding by other means, but most effective, particularly in this disturbed age that we live in, it's recommended in the scriptures, and it's recommended by the authorities because it's recommended in the scriptures, and it's very effective. So somebody has a way to turn on the lights in the room. We can take some time and discuss a little bit. Watch the magic happen. Touch the button and the light comes on. Comments or questions, anyone? Yeah.
You said there's a super soul and there are individual souls.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. So, is it one soul or is it many souls?
Okay. There's the individual and there's the supreme. That's the two. And the individual comes from the source, that's the supreme. But the supreme isn't fractional or part, it's whole. So there's the supreme soul and the individual soul, both situated within the body.
So they both live in the same body.
Both within the same body.
Thank you.
So God is within you. Kingdom of God is within you, right? You've heard that phrase before. The king is in his kingdom. Kingdom of God is within you. God is within you. So super soul, and super soul, both within you, within everybody, with even a microbe, or the tiniest whatever you can think of as existing entity. There's a soul animating that life form, and side by side there's a super soul alongside with the individual soul. And everything that's alive, there's a soul. And side by side with the soul, there's the supreme. He supervises everything. Two things. Upadrashta Anumanta. That's from Bhagavad Gita. Drashta means to see. Upadrashta, he oversees everything. The witness. And Anumanta, he permits. Anumanta. Supposing somebody wants to be a thief. Some people want to be a thief. So, or some people want, whatever it is they want. There has to be a sanction giving, and that thus intelligence giving and resource giving person. That's the sanctioning. Upadrashta. That's super soul within.
Then why does super soul allow crime or
Yes.
killing or rape? Or...
Yes. No, he doesn't want it. Just like the state doesn't want crime, but there's crime. So God doesn't want people to violate laws of God. But he doesn't interfere. If they insist on violating the laws of God, then sanction is there. There's punishment, but there's sanction also. Let me ask you, you have another explanation? No.
No.
So, no. Why, then another is why? Why does he sanction it? It's a reasonable question. Why does he sanction it? And the answer is, he doesn't interfere with free will. I'm a tiny part of, as this other fellow was saying, something that's infinite. I'm infinitesimal. I'm very, very tiny. But the quality of the tiny is like the quality of the infinite. So if there's unlimited free will within God, so living entities, we have tiny. And tiny means I can properly or misuse it. For those that misuse it, they have the option to misuse it. Otherwise, there's no free will. Supposing somebody grabs you by the shirt and says, look, do what I say or else, and there's nowhere else. That's not free will. Living entities can misuse free will. So, so the Supreme recognizes its misuse of free will. They will suffer, others will suffer. It's not good. Please don't do that. You know, but it's like a child. We've all experienced. Child may want, do something, or that's it's detrimental to them or to others or both. And you can say no, and they'll scream. Some. And then, okay, at your own risk. So that's God's position. He sanctions, doesn't mean he wants it, but wait a minute, here's the doubt again. But he's a supreme controller. So can't he just say no? He doesn't say no, because otherwise there's no free will. Yes, there's free will. There's responsibility. So you and I, each of us that have free will, how are we going to use it? We're responsible. That's called karma. So there's bad karma and there's good karma. There's bondage to the consequence of proper and misuse of free will. And then, so the advocacy of Bhagavad Gita is to go beyond either, but become transcendental. Transcendental means everything is in that relationship with the individual soul and the Supreme Soul, and that's everything. Not just do good and avoid the bad. Be moral and don't be immoral. Be pious and don't be sinful. There's piety and sinful. Those are choices of free will. And then there's transcendence. Interesting, isn't it?
So then, does God reward good karma and punish bad karma, or
there's lots of karma, and the person that oversees it is super soul. He oversees it, upadrashta, and permits. You want to be charitable and kind and truthful and not lie, and that's the kind of person. Okay. And then there's other types of people, without mentioning name, but there's some persons that just are chronic liars. And they're in a high position. They just can't help themselves. They're just chronic liars. And some people are truthful, honest persons. And God sanctions both. There's consequences for both. So spirituality is far more than morality. Morality is do the good and avoid the bad. Be good and don't be evil. But there's duality in this world. There's good and there's evil. Yes, it's our friend back here. You've been very patient, so we'll come back to you.
Those people that possess the power over us, and we consider ourselves to be more loving, and how do you
Justify?
I mean, trying to just who you are is always, the essence always comes back.
Yeah. So
But you have to be put up with the other the
evil people.
or the other part of, you say that the spiritual higher essence that have control over us.
Well, You're mixing words. If you don't mind, I'd like to edit your mixing of words, because spiritual doesn't control. Spiritual sanctions. There's a nice verse. Do you like? Are you familiar with Bhagavad Gita a little bit?
I'm not familiar.
Not familiar. Someone here, make sure he gets a Bhagavad Gita before he leaves, and show him chapter 13, verse 22. And then you can ponder it. Next time you come again, you can ask more about it. But I'll give you the quick one. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. You saw the picture. So one of the things that Krishna says to Arjuna is, well, it's in one verse, two things. Purushat prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jangunan karanam gunasangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. That's 13:22. So the verse says that sad asad, we're the architects of our own good fortune and ill fortune. It's not imposed upon us. We make choices, just like this earlier discussion. We make choices, and the spiritual doesn't decide for us how we're going to use it properly or misuse it. We make choices, and we're therefore the architects of our good fortune, ill fortune. Now, the language I want to edit is spiritual is neutral. It's not controlling us in the sense that, we're being good and that there's evil people that are above us and more powerful than us and put us in jail or, do really mean things. That exists, but what's the background behind it? The misuse of free will, and I find myself in that situation. Now, when I find myself in that situation, what to do? That's another question. But your question is, why do persons that are controlling us in the spiritual position, why do they control us? Our destiny is in our hands. There's laws of nature, that's for sure. Karma, it's a law of nature. As you said, you do something, an act of kindness, it's going to come back. You do an act of harm and cruelty, it's going to come back. So cruelty that comes back is because I did some cruelty. I'm not blaming the spiritual. A decision I made. And I didn't have to do something cruel. I could do something nice. And then something nice come back. Kindness come back. Guaranteed. Now, one of the persons I like is Mother Teresa. I'm sure you've heard of Mother Teresa. So she has these nice sayings. Check them out sometimes. Supposing you continue being good and some people are envious and they want to undermine you, do good anyways. And then you go through a whole list of things, and the final analysis is not between you and them, it's between you and God anyways. So if you or I or anyone fix on that eternal self and the eternal relationship with the Supreme Self, you can rise above the good and the bad. It becomes this nice word, transcendental. What's transcendental? It's neither good nor bad. It's not in the field of duality. Is there such a life? Yes, there is. Most of us know the world of duality. It's either this or that. It's day or it's night. No, it's sun setting, so it's going to become night. And then there's, happiness and distress, and there's honor and dishonor, and there's pleasure and there's pain, there's kindness and there's hurt, and there's duality in this realm. So is there a realm that's beyond duality? Yes. That's the efficacy of Bhagavad Gita. But the spiritual is not controlling us. We're held responsible, yes, but I'm the architect of my good fortune, ill fortune, and can't blame somebody did it to me. You can do that. I mean, people do that, but the seat of consciousness is the source, the laws of nature. Now, you had a question earlier when I stopped you when you wanted to ask something. You remember what
And I think I asked you, does the heart see?
does the heart see? Consciousness sees. It's a nice question. If you like philosophy,
I mean,
sometimes.
only when I drink.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting response. Well, we all drink water, or we drink something. So, the seeing of the soul is not identical with the seeing of the covering of the soul. The seeing through the covering is because of the seeing of the soul. That seeing of the soul is eternal, because soul is conscious and consciousness is eternal, the soul is eternal. So although the body in this lifetime is a human body, so we have human eyes, we have human seeing, and other life forms, the senses are more developed in one life form and a more developed different sense in another life form. Dogs can smell things that we can't smell, but there's some smell. Anyway, consciousness is of the soul. Perception, sight, etc., is of the soul. That's what this fellow that was in the out-of-body experience it was the soul looking upon the body down there on the operating table. What Kimberly Clark Sharp said, she had a patient that said they not only left their body, they floated across the ceiling. There was an open ventilation window. They went out the window and up 3 flights and found themselves looking inside a janitor's closet and described what was in the janitor's closet. She thought, what's this? Then they said, there's a little ledge above the janitor's closet, and there's a sneaker on top of that ledge. And it has a little rip in the toe, the big toe. Like very, very graphic seeing, right? And it wasn't the body. The body is on the operating table.
You can't control what the other part sees.
Well, that's another, control is another thing. But so she went to the janitor and said, janitor, can I take a look inside she said, look, this is a hospital. I keep the closet locked. Now, can I take a look inside? Yeah, you're a doctor. You can look inside. And exactly what the person saw inside the janitor's closet is what was inside, where the pole, the mops and the buckets and the this and the that. Exactly. And then the little ledge that had sneak, you can't see it from inside. You have to be outside to see it. So she went up a couple floors and looked down, and there it was, the sneaker with the little rip in the toe. So the person was seeing. Back to your question. The soul sees. It's not the normal seeing, but the soul sees. Not everybody has that. There's such OBEs. You've heard the phrase, out of body experience. Sometimes when people are in a car accident or some traumatic event happens in their life, and all of a sudden they leave their body, and they narrate what they experienced when they left their body. There's like books on it, OBE books. Kanka, can you pass the microphone to this lady? Thank you.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for your nice presentation. I love all the graphics. I wanted to also say that we have a book called Coming Back.
Yeah.
And in that book is they're also doing scientific experiments where the people remember past lives. And I had a person in the, he was in the police department, and he said, oh yeah, My brother, under hypnosis, could speak fluent German, but when he wasn't under hypnosis, he could not speak fluent German. And that's kind of what the story is, the scientific study, where they had a woman who was under hypnosis could remember where she lived in her past life. So I thought it was really wonderful how you showed that the super soul, Krishna, goes along with all the living entities. It's not a different super soul. It's the same super soul. It's Krishna there waiting for us to turn to him. And there's a saying, I can sing it for you. Two birds sitting in a tree. One is Krishna, one is me. I am always in distress. He is waiting day by day for me to turn and look his way. So, in other words, the super soul, Krishna, I used to teach preschool, so the super soul is waiting for us. Just like a parent doesn't want their kids to do this or that or this or that, but the kids are going to do whatever they want. And so similarly, the person, and then they're going to say one day, why am I suffering so much? Who am I? Where am I going? And he turns to this, and that person will turn to the super soul in the heart, which is there. Krishna is there to help us fulfill our desires.
Fantastic. Yeah. Here comes the microphone.
Thank you.
You teach preschool?
I used to teach preschool.
You used to teach.
At New Vrindavan.
In New Vrindavan, okay.
And I started the preschool
You did? Really?
1973 or 74.
Shoo-wee. She's an old-timer too. We've known each other for umpteen years.
He was my Sankirtan leader.
I was recently, this is offline, I was recently visiting Brahmatirtha in Gainesville. He's as lively and as sharp as a tack as he always was. And he was remembering things that I had forgotten. And when I left, he said, "This is my favorite picture." He showed me a picture of his uncle had a car. During that period of time, we didn't have cars, and he didn't either. He was a teacher. He was a science teacher or something like that. He's driving Prabhupada. There's a picture of Prabhupada holding up a flower. You can't, because he's holding up, he's sitting in the car. You can't see, but I remember exactly. Brahmatirtha was when Prabhupada wanted to go somewhere, Brahmatirtha was the driver. And you had all these memorable stories of so many, many, many things.
Wonderful.
The deprogramming thing and Prabhupada's comments on deprogramming Murti Vandya and the whole thing. Remember all that?
Yeah.
Okay, back to our
Hare
present
Krishna
situation.
Maharaj. Thank you for speaking today. I appreciated the empirical evidences you presented about the existence of the soul in the body. But I had a question about the dangers of seeking out empirical evidence for such things. Like when I was younger, I was really interested in finding evidence of the existence of God or the existence of the soul and such things. And at one point, I got advice that that resonated with me, and it was that seeking out evidence for such things kind of takes away the whole element of faith, and it doesn't make it as special anymore. And today, what you presented was extremely compelling, and so now I find myself a little conflicted on whether it is all right to seek out empirical evidence for the existence of God, for the existence of the soul, and other such like other things related to this, or if it's better to trust without empirical evidence and build faith that way,
Or a
Thank you.
combination.
or a combination.
Now, so there's good, better, or best. That's the kind of the question. It's those kinds of not resting only on faith, but on sensory and experience and the data of sensory experience. The best is faith. However, sometimes faith is soft and pliable. And therefore, because faith is soft and pliable, should I have some faith, should I just stay with the soft and pliable and make it firm? Or look for other things that they don't confirm, but they support my faith? And that's an approach. Now, supposing somebody doesn't have that ill liking, as you said, there was previously, and now you're going in the direction, you have been going in the direction of just what Scripture says. That's sufficient. It's complete. And the other isn't going to give you conviction because there could be another explanation. Any one of these things. Any one of these things. I mean, that's like what Dr. Sabam concluded. There may be some other conclusion, but I can't draw another conclusion besides this one. And it's just, there's a soul. It's not proof. It's not proof. The Vedas is proof, and the senses are not proof.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay. How are we doing? Anyone else wants to contribute to this discussion? Okay, we're going to go to the next thing. I brought with me some Mahaprasadam from the Phoenix Temple. Radha Madhavahari. Radha Madhavahari. And also there's some cookies. She's going to go get some cookies from her car. And I've got the box of Mahaprasadam right over here. And it's burfi. It's like milk sweet. So don't ask me, is there any nuts or any, it's none of that